What's up, guys? We're back with another video. This is my new intro. This is the fight against poverty, and today is a special day. Today is Martin Luther King's Day, and today we're having a special on Martin Luther King. So tune in. It's gonna be a great episode, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell down below. Again, this is my intro. Something short and simple. I like it, so let's just stay tuned. So let's start off. I got a little title slide, MLK Day Special. Uh, I edited a picture of Martin Luther King and put him on $100 bill. I did that because, he had an idea towards the end of his life about guaranteed income, giving people money, an annual income, a monthly income to survive as a safety net. And what better way to put them, just to put them on $100 bill? That'd be cool if they did it. I know they tried to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, but I feel like maybe Martin Luther King was more appropriate because he actually had ideas about how to eliminate poverty in this economy. So I think his idea was good. It wasn't even a new idea at the time. Actually, Thomas Paine had it way back when. He was one of the founding fathers of the United States Constitution. So, yeah, that's what it symbolized to me. So, let's get into it. I'm going to tell you guys why I started reading into the work of Martin Luther King more and what made me read into his work a little bit more. To the next slide. This is the next slide. I have a little quote by Martin Luther King. As long as there is poverty in this world, no man can be totally rich, even if he has $1 billion. And what that means to me is even though you're rich, there's still going to be poor people in the way this economy is ran today because you get trapped in welfare. Some people get trapped in welfare. And we're taught to look past those people. We're taught to, oh, we pay taxes to help those programs to benefit those people. And yeah, that may be true, but at the same time, we can't act like our own self endeavors mean something over their lives. It's a real struggle. I've seen it. Low income communities, the people in low income communities. Uh, Section 8 and things of that nature, and it's it's really not suitable to live. It's not really suitable living conditions. Um, it's hard. So you can have all that money, but you're not gonna be totally rich because you want the next person. At least me, I believe I would want the people around me to be rich too. Not, I mean, at least have money to survive. Live properly. That's just in my eyes what this quote means. Um, yeah, and he says that as long as there's poverty in the world, like no man can be rich. So that being said, we need to really eliminate poverty because your mind, at some point, you're gonna recognize like not everybody's living the same lifestyle as me. Not everybody has access to these resources like me, or access to money like me, or got an inheritance. A lot of people don't get inheritance. A lot of people don't inherit a house or a car or whatever, piece of land. A lot of people don't get that. So we're gonna talk about Martin Luther King, some of his quotes. Got a video on here. On to the next slide. So this is my next slide. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. knew that to abolish poverty, the country needed a guaranteed income, minimum income. Today, it is also known as universal basic income. And this guy down here, Andrew Yang, is what made me start looking into what a universal basic income is. And then that introduced me to some of Martin Luther King's ideas from the past of a guaranteed income. And that just led me down this journey to finding out, doing more research about ways we can do that, even with a negative income tax. It's the same, but a negative income tax basically it runs out. It stops when you get to a certain when you're making a certain amount of money. So once you get past that limit, you're good. You're good to live off of. But until you get to that point, you're going to be getting paid monthly to help you. You know what I'm saying? Help you during that time, which is a good idea. But it really started for me with the guaranteed income, universal basic income introduced by Andrew Yang. As income inequality grows and technology continues to take away our jobs, more than ever, we need a universal basic income. Andrew Yang has a plan, the freedom dividend, and with his plan, he wanted to do a value added tax, a VAT tax. The United States doesn't have that. It's where you put a tax on every part of production, like an iPhone, every part, the semiconductors, the screen, all that would get taxed on the production line, each part of production. So that was going to pay for his plan, but he dropped out of the race, unfortunately. And then came the pandemic, and then we started seeing how monthly checks could help during a time like the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? And then poverty is an epidemic, and well, really a pandemic because it exists everywhere. But it's something. Poverty is something, and it exists everywhere. But with this plan, the universal basic income, it really um, it's just a way to have a safety net for everybody, not just a certain group of people. It's for everybody. It's just a safety net, you know, in case you fall back on finances, you can be ready. And Martin Luther King, he knew that. It may have been toward the end of his life. He may have talked about it during his whole life. We're gonna find out some of the things he said, but he knew to abolish poverty, we would need a guaranteed income to maybe create that middle class that's non-existent in today's age. You know, it's crazy to know that Martin Luther King had these ideas in 1967, and you know we haven't even tried it. You know, we haven't even tried it, and it's just interesting. This is why I'm doing a special on him. This is why he's on my channel. I loved his ideas. I loved him as a person, even though I didn't get to live to see him talk and speak. But he's a great person in my eyes, and he introduced me to a lot of different ideas in politics. He really did, and yeah, we're gonna get into more about him. So on to the next slide. So I read a book by Martin Luther King when I found out what he his idea was of a guaranteed income was, and I found that I could find it in his book, and it was very interesting to me. And the title is "Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community?" And in this book, it's a whole lot of different sections. One section is called Black Power. Another section we're gonna see here in a minute. He talks about guaranteed income and technology a little bit in it. But let's get to that next slide. So where do we go from here? Community of chaos. This is inside the book. Where we are going. That's what the chapter is titled. And this is on page 164, and this is 165. And I'm going to start in this middle section. We are likely to find that the problems of housing and education instead of preceding the elimination of poverty, will themselves be affected if poverty is first abolished. The poor them, themselves be affected if poverty is first. Wait. The poor transferred into purchasers will do a great, or purchasers will do a great deal on their own to alter housing decay. Negroes who have a double disability will have a greater effect on discrimination when they have the additional weapon of cash to use in their struggle. Beyond these advantages, a host of positive psychological changes inevitably will result from widespread economic security. The dignity of the individual will flourish when the decisions concerning his life are in his own hands. When he has the assurance that his income is stable and certain, and when he knows that he has the means to seek self improvement, personal conflicts between husband, wife, and children will diminish. When the unjust measurement of human worth on a scale of dollars is eliminated. I agree with that totally. Um, and what he's saying is, you're getting paid $10 an hour, uh, and he's saying what it should be is a guaranteed income, a monthly income. So your measurement is not, it doesn't mean anything. I'm doing this work because I want to. You would find that self improvement psychologically. I'm doing this because I want to do it, not just because it's based on the price. And you get that self worth back. And I get what he's saying there. Let's continue reading. Two conditions are indispensable if we are to ensure that the guaranteed income operates as consistently progressive measure. First, it must be pegged to the median income of society, not at the lowest levels of income. To guarantee an income at the floor would simply perpetuate welfare standards and freeze into the society poverty conditions. Second, the guaranteed income must be dynamic. It must automatically increase as the total social income grows, where where it permitted to remain static under growth conditions. The recipients would suffer a relative decline if periodic reviews disclose that the whole national income has risen. Then the guaranteed income would have to be adjusted upward by the same percentage. So what he's saying is, as the economy continues to grow, because it will grow if this happens, so should the minimum income for the next generation. It shouldn't be froze or stagnant at that certain level because people's going to get stuck at that certain income. And then you're going to create a whole different subgroup of poverty. They're still gonna end up in poverty. So we can't create it at the lowest levels. We have to create a median. A median of some type. What's the average uh amount, annual amount Americans make? So let's continue. Without these safeguards, a creeping motivation and of the blind operation of our economic system. Now we realize that this this dislocation in the market operation of our economy and the prevalence of discrimination thrusts people into idleness and blind them in constant and frequent unemployment against their will. The poor are less often dismissed from our conscience today by being branded as inferior and incompetent. We also know that no matter how dynamically the economy develops and expands, it does not eliminate all poverty, and that's true. That's very true. And on one of my earlier episodes, I talked about it actually was the episode where I dove deep into poverty. It's just a label; they're being branded as just how they look at that moment, and that's what he's talking about. And that we dismiss them like like it's their fault, and it's not right. That's how this society treats those who have less, and it's not going to eliminate all poverty because most people don't file their taxes, or most people don't have a state ID, or So it's gonna be hard to get a guaranteed income to everybody. It's not gonna get to everybody, and that's the sad part about it. And I don't think there's no way to alleviate all poverty, but there is a way to fight it in a sense. So I get what he's saying. So let's continue reading to see what he has to say. We have come to the point where we must make the non-producer a consumer, or we will find ourselves drowning in a sea of consumer goods. Yes, we have so energetically mastered production that we now must give attention to distribution. Through there have been increases in purchasing power, they have lagged behind increases in production. Those at the lowest economic level, the poor, white, and Negro, the aged, and chronically ill are traditionally unorganized and therefore have little ability to force the necessary growth in their income. The stagnate or they stagnate or become even poorer in relation to the larger society. The problem indicates that our emphasis must be twofold. We must create full employment or we must create incomes. People must be made consumers by one method or the other. Once they are placed in this position, we need to be concerned that the potential of the individual is not wasted. New forms of work that enhance the social good will have to be devised for those for whom traditionally jobs are most available. And I agree. I agree again. And that's how it is now. We have a lot of jobs. We have a lot of stock goods. And you gotta meet that. You gotta, and then a lot of jobs are low staff too, like Walmart, they're low staff. And you gotta create more jobs and definitely turn some of these people into consumers. And the only way to do that is by giving them cash. We've seen that with the pandemic. Um, that's probably the reason our economy is still stable because they gave out those stimulus checks and people spent them. And then people had the loans, the PPP loans, and they spent the money back in the economy. So that's just how these type of things work. So that's from his book. Where do we go from here? Community or chaos? Pages 164 and 165. You can check that out at the library. You can do an interloan. That's what I did. But let's get into this next slide. I think it's a video. No, it's not. It's all right to tell a man to lift himself by his own bootstraps, but it is a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. How can you do that if you don't got no boots? If you don't have the proper resources or proper funds, how can you do anything? It takes money to make money. So how can you tell somebody, oh, get a job? You know, they don't have the proper resources. Some people don't have state IDs. Some people don't have the Social Security. Some people, you just gotta understand that on all levels when you're dealing with poverty. A lot of people, it's a hassle to get these things, especially now during the pandemic. You got the DMVs closed, so it's just how can you tell people like get it together when they weren't given things like proper resources to go places, proper information to access these resources. A lot of people don't know, and I'm one of those people who don't know a lot about Section 8, food stamps, um, these even unemployment. I barely know it, even though I've been on it. I barely understand it. It's hard to keep up, and a lot of people don't understand it. So there's a lot of things wrong with the system because they're telling you like you should have all these things, but you never knew that from the start. You never knew that from the start, so it's a problem there. So let's go on to the next slide. I believe this is the video now.
Times to get people to be aroused from their apathetic slumbers, but I still feel that Negroes in the North can be motivated just as they were motivated in the South. And I think as time goes on, with the growing economic deprivation in the Negro community, it will even be easier because people will come to see that not only is something wrong in general, but something is wrong in particular in their own economic and housing situation. What is it? I mean, how do you find it? It's very subtle in the North, is it not? It's subtle, but it's becoming much more visible. Anybody can see that the schools are more segregated in the North today than they were in 1954 when the Supreme Court rendered segregation unconstitutional. Anybody can look around the ghetto and see that ghetto schools are predominantly segregated and devoid of quality. Anyone who moves to a major ghetto of our country will see the housing conditions. People don't have to be reminded that they are forced to live in slums in many instances, and they often the right infested Birmingham slums. And it isn't too hard to see the exploitation that the Negro confronts in the ghetto, where he is forced to pay more for less and constantly trying to make ends meet, but because of either no job as a result of unemployment or a job that is so economically unprofitable that the person can't make it. And I think they see all of these things, and more they're coming to see them. Because before, the people of the North were looking to the South. They supported the struggles of the South. Now they're coming to see that their problems are very real, and they've got organized to grapple with them.
So as you heard him say, forced to live in slums. Some people have to grow up in ghetto, and you can see the difference in these neighborhoods. If you ever go to the South Side, West Side of Chicago, then go up north or go to the South suburbs, it's different. It's very, very different. It's something, and it shouldn't be like that. You know, everybody should have access to the same things as those in the South suburbs. You can just listen to some students that have participated in some of these charter schools in the city and things of that nature. And also, even in the South suburbs, I went to TF North, Thornton Fractional North High School, and then there was a Thornton Fractional South, and you could see the difference even there. Their school was newer um, and predominantly white in a white neighborhood. You know, they had certain things that we didn't, and you know, and it's just a fact, and you can see it. It was a rivalry during sports events, and it was kind of a little bit of racial tension there. I could see that a lot, and it was just real odd, you know, real odd. Um, I'm not sure as far as the textbooks. You know, a person has to really look into that. Um, but you can see the difference, especially in the West Side and South Side of Chicago. Me living in Illinois, the difference between these schools and the resources they have available, and after-school programs and things of that nature. Programs disappear after a while. You know, my school had it where they would drop you off at your job. They didn't have that when I became a senior, but they had it for my brother who was a couple years ahead of me. So let's continue to listen on what he has to say.
Large segments of white America on the whole question of racial equality. I think we have to see that vacillation has always existed, ambivalence has always existed, and this to me is the so-called white backlash. It's merely a new name for an old phenomenon. I see the white backlash as a continuation of the same ambivalence and vacillation of white America on the whole question of racial justice that has existed since the founding of our nation. I think the other thing that we must see at this time is that many of the people who supported us in Selma and Birmingham were really outraged about the extremist behavior toward Negroes. But they were not at that moment, and they are not now, committed to genuine equality for Negroes. It's much easier to integrate a lunch counter than it is to guarantee an annual income, for instance, to get rid of poverty for Negroes and all poor people. It's much easier to integrate a bus than it is to make genuine integration a reality and quality education a reality in our schools. It's much easier to integrate even a public park than it is to get rid of slums. And I think we are in a new era, a new phase of the struggle, where we have moved from a struggle for decency, which characterized our struggle for 10 or 12 years, to a struggle for genuine equality. And this is where we're getting the resistance, because there was never any intention to go this far. People were reacting to Bull Connor and to Jim Clark rather than acting in good faith for the realization of genuine equality.
So he was saying how much easier it is to integrate a lunch counter than to just give a guaranteed income. It's much easier to do that. So, and he was saying how they've come into this new struggle. I think he was finding this out toward the end when the Civil Rights Bill did get passed. The new struggle for equality, full equality, and sharing the wealth, sharing the wealth, and he really started to see toward the end of his life that it was a it was kind of a new struggle that may have been created out of this. And like he was saying, it's much easier to do some of these things instead of giving proper education in these schools and giving a guaranteed income and things of that nature. Um, Obviously, it was much easier, but it would have been more difficult to to start a guaranteed income and to provide income for all poor people of all races. It was much easier to do these things. And he's gonna say something else that I want everybody to pay attention to.
Think white people in this country, and I'm talking about non-segregationist people.
Let's see. Let's find it.
No land, or nothing
I'm gonna
in
rewind
reality,
it
and
after
as a
this.
matter of fact,
Hold on one
it's not
second.
immigrant groups have had to face. The other thing is that the color became a stigma. American society made the Negro's color a stigma, and that can never be overlooked. So I think these things are absolutely necessary. The other thing is that America freed the slaves in 1863 through the Emancipation Proclamation of Abraham Lincoln, but gave the slaves no land or nothing in reality, and as a matter of fact, to get started on. At the same time, America was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that there was a willingness to give the white peasants from Europe an economic base. And yet it refused to give its black peasants from Africa, who came here involuntarily in chains and had worked free for 244 years, any kind of economic basis. So emancipation for the Negro was really freedom to hunger. It was freedom to the winds and rains of heaven. It was freedom without food to eat or land to cultivate, and therefore it was freedom and famine at the same time. And when white Americans tell the Negro to lift himself by his own bootstraps, they don't look over the legacy of slavery and segregation. I believe we ought to do all we can and seek to lift ourselves by our own bootstraps. But it's a cruel jest to say to the bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And many Negroes, by thousands and millions, have been left bootless as a result of all of these years of oppression and as a result of a society that deliberately made this color a stigma and something worthless and degrading.
So what he's saying is, African Americans, they had no base. They didn't start with a base, and we were left to basically starvation and hunger and the cold without any land to build from. No economic support to build from. There was nothing. And it's amazing that we've come this far, but still, we're still going through this. People still stuck in low income and haven't risen from it. Generations of it, and it's a major problem. And it's glad to see that there's still some relevance to this, even on his. This is a I don't know how many days we've been celebrating his life, but I'm thankful that we do. I'm thankful for him because this is still relevant and it's still there. It's still there. We still left out in the cold, and some people don't have heat. Some people don't even have a place to to stay or to eat, to sit at. Living off food stamps, barely making it, stretching it. In my last video, shared a video with the lady saying she had to stretch the food stamps to through the month because she was only getting 216 and they reduced it. So these are some of the things that you know generations have faced. And it's sad that it's been afflicted on a specific group of people that came here involuntarily, like he said, and it's quite saddening, but it's just something to look back on. That's why I'm sharing it. Today's a day to celebrate Martin Luther King, and we can strive for better. We could talk about ways to better ourselves, better our communities, so we can build towards something like a guaranteed income or a negative income tax to help alleviate some of this poverty throughout our communities. Let's continue.
As for integration, I think we can offer our whole nation something because there are three evils in our nation. It's not only racism, but economic exploitation of poverty would be then militarism. And I think in a sense, and in a very real sense, these three are tied inextricably together. We aren't going to get rid of one without getting rid of the other. When you stood on the Lincoln Memorial that day in August '63,
Yeah, so he was saying like we have three evils, three separate evils. The one we're gonna focus on is poverty, and you can't get rid of one without the other. So we really can't even focus on just that. But the people, the government's supposed to serve the people, for the people, and there's been cases where they haven't been for the people. They've left people out in the cold, out to dry, or whatever phrase you want to use. We've seen it. There's been little help. There's been help, but it's not enough. It's time we try something different. It's time we look look at new ways, new ideas from maybe another generation, and we go from there. Because a lot of things are left unsaid, and when things are left unsaid, it goes unseen, it goes unheard. So we have to do more to help alleviate poverty, to fight against poverty, and really applaud this man for the work he did. It's sad that he had to go so I believe he would have been the first black president. On to the next slide. So he was assassinated by James Earl Ray. This guy escaped prison, and he committed a lot of robberies and just in trouble his whole life. Um, uh, from what I read, didn't really have any real motive. Maybe he was paid by somebody. the court didn't find that out. So it was kind of a hush hush type of thing, kind of swept under the rug. So James Earl Ray, that's the guy that assassinated Martin Luther King, a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He assassinated a Nobel Peace Prize winner. How the feds discovered that Martin Luther King's killer was a small-time St. Louis robber. Um, just a mugshot. Yeah, he was just a small-time robber. He drove. He didn't try to leave the country, maybe because he was already a felon. I think he drove down to Georgia and maybe got caught somewhere in a white Mustang. Say he did it from another hotel. Had a clear shot at him. Killed him one shot. One shot killed Martin Luther King. There's a lot of conspiracies around it. But they said one shot killed Martin Luther King. Very sad. Very sad. The man probably didn't know because he was, from what I read, he was a robber. He came from out of poverty, robbed somebody for like $60 or something like that. That was a man in poverty. I'm pretty sure he didn't know that Martin Luther King was fighting for those in poverty. So it's kind of a shame to hear that whatever he had against him, um, it was planned. He bought binoculars and things of that nature. I read, and it was just real strange, real strange. But I'm glad we can celebrate Martin Luther King on this day and look back on it and know that something wasn't right. And yeah, yeah, just gonna have to continue on that note. So this is gonna be my last slide. A plan to eliminate poverty. The plan for solving poverty was laid out in Dr. Martin Luther King's final book, Where Do We Go From Here? Community of Chaos, the book I was telling you guys about, written in 1967. By establishing guaranteed middle class income, the United States could tackle poverty head on. Dr. King explained how Americans should receive a set income from the government each year, allowing them to have a livable amount of money. This money would allow those in poverty to invest back into their communities, purchasing goods, finding reasonable housing, and having the means to living a better life. Dr. King's crusade for economic justice went beyond writing speeches as he was working towards a larger organized protest, the Poor People's Campaign. As it became known, was first announced by King in November of 1967 in partnership with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference at SCLC and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund. The Poor People's Campaign was planned to be a march on Washington of around 2,000 people speaking out against income inequality, lack of opportunity, and insufficient wages, as Dr. King said. So this I found interesting because I found out that it was going to be another march on Washington of around 2,000 people, and I believe his wife Coretta Scott went through with it and did it. And some things were done, but it's still not enough, as we can see. You know, if you go into these low income communities, and you could just see it all written over it, and it's sad. You know, it's sad that nothing has been done since around this time, and it's been longer than that since it's been around. Even worse, you know, to know that it was worse, that hurts. That hurts. You know, yeah, it's it's just amazing that he had this mind to put it together like a guaranteed income that would help. Um, he called on that. You know, I wish he could have maybe, ran for Congress, may have been a congressman, maybe introduced this as a bill and got it passed. You know, I believe there's a lot of opportunities if Congress were to seek out this to make this a law, an annual guarantee income to to middle class income, establish a guaranteed middle class income, and it definitely could tackle poverty and uh yeah um I like researching this. I think this is an interesting topic. I think he lived an interesting life. He accomplished a lot. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. Um, and it's a lot to remember him by. Definitely a lot. He said a lot of things, a lot of great things, a lot of things that make sense even in today's economy. And those are the people you pay attention to. People's words who go on for years that are timeless. They speak words that are timeless, and it just echoes. And you know, it's sad to know that those echoes don't reach Congress, and they don't care enough to even pay attention that there was something wrong. There was something wrong, and there's still something very wrong with it. If they would go to these low income communities and see it, actually go, not there's no being scared. You represent these people. You have to go into these communities and actually see how they're living day to day lives. We shouldn't have to keep watching documentaries of people struggling like the way they're struggling. Like something should be done. So that's the end of this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And more on the way.